The water was so cold that it stopped hurting. At first I felt every wave bite into my skin, but then I simply stopped feeling my body. All I could hear was my own breathing. 1, 2, 3 strokes. And then another. Behind me the sirens tore through the silence of the night. The searchlights swept across the ocean, hunting for a silhouette. My silhouette. If a single one of those beams found me, a bullet would finish the job before the cold could. But I kept swimming. Because going back meant something worse than dying. It meant going back to Alcatraz. For years they taught us that no one escaped that island. Not because it was impossible, but because everyone who tried ended up dead, drowned, or dragged back to their cells as an example. I had spent 4 years planning exactly how not to become that example. And tonight I would find out if it had been worth it. My name is Frank. Before Alcatraz I was a mechanic, a bank robber, and a man who thought he could steal enough to get his mother out of a neighborhood that was slowly killing her. I miscalculated. The police caught me 3 blocks from the bank. My mother died 2 years later, while I was serving my sentence in a cell with no windows. I never got to say goodbye. That pain was what kept me sane inside Alcatraz, and it was also what convinced me I was not going to die there. When the boat first approached, I saw the prison rising over the rocks as if it had come straight out of hell. Gray walls. Tiny windows. Guarded towers. And an ocean that seemed to laugh at anyone who dreamed of escape. One of the guards smiled as he made us step off. "Take a good look at the water," he said, "because it is the last thing you will ever see as free men." No one answered. There was no need. We all knew where we were. My cell was barely bigger than a closet. An iron bed. A sink. A toilet. A small shelf. And 4 walls capable of driving the strongest man insane. The first few nights I barely slept. Not because of the screams. Not because of the cold. But because of the silence. It was so deep you could hear your own thoughts. And when those thoughts were the only thing you had left, believe me, that was worse than any punishment. Most of the prisoners spoke little. Not because they were dangerous, but because there was nothing left inside them. There were men who had gone 15 years without hugging anyone. Others had forgotten the voices of their own children. Alcatraz did not just lock away bodies. It locked away memories. I promised myself that would never happen to me. Every night I tried to remember something specific: the smell of the workshop, the color of my mother's shoes, the sound of the fan in summer. Small anchors, so I would not lose myself. But among all the prisoners there was one who was different. They called him Miller. John Miller. He never asked for anything, never got into trouble, and never looked the guards in the eye. Not out of fear. But because Miller did not see the walls. Miller saw what was behind them. For weeks I watched him without him noticing. Every single night, exactly when the lights went out, he would go to the sink and spend 5 minutes staring at a small crack behind the pipe. Always the same one. Always exactly 5 minutes. One night I used the count to ask him, "What are you looking at every day?" He smiled. The first genuine smile I had seen inside that prison. And he answered with something that would change my life. The way out. I thought he was crazy. Every prisoner had a story about secret tunnels, corrupt guards, boats waiting on the coast. They were always lies, necessary lies to keep hope alive. But Miller was different. He did not try to convince me. He simply went back to watching that crack. I spent weeks doubting. But one night, when the corridor fell completely silent, I moved closer. I waited for the lights to go out. And I pressed my ear against the wall. And then I heard it. It was not my imagination. On the other side there was a sound. A faint whistle, like air running through an empty space. Behind that wall there was no rock. There was a hollow. And I understood that the prison was not perfect. It was just a structure built by men. And everything men build can be broken. The next day I went back to Miller's cell. "So what now?" I whispered. "Now you start digging." I laughed. "With what?" "With my hands." Slowly he pulled out a small metal spoon from the dining hall. He held it up in front of me like a weapon. "With patience." I never imagined a spoon could feel so heavy. Every night we scraped away just a few grains of concrete. It was maddening. We worked for hours to advance barely the width of a fingernail. We hid the dust inside our pockets and scattered it during the yard walk. No one could tell that a wall was slowly disappearing. We could not afford a single mistake. Because one mistake meant solitary. And solitary meant it was all over. Weeks turned into months. My hands were covered in wounds. My nails broke. My fingers bled. But the hole kept growing. Behind the wall a maintenance shaft appeared. Dark. Narrow. Full of rusted pipes. It was the first time in a long while I saw a place with no bars. I felt something I had almost forgotten. Freedom. The engineers had left a space behind the cells for the pipes, a space no one ever checked. Because no one imagined a prisoner could cut through concrete with a spoon. That was exactly what made us invisible. Getting out of the cell was only the first problem. Every night the guards checked that a head was still on the pillow. If they saw an empty bed, it would all be over in minutes. That was when Miller had the most ridiculous idea I had ever heard, to build a head. With soap, paper, paint, and hair we collected from the prison barbershop. For weeks we molded fake faces. They were horrible, they looked like badly made dummies. But in the dark, they fooled anyone. The first night we left a fake head on the pillow, I felt my heart trying to leap out of my chest. I heard the guard's footsteps. Each strike of his boots echoed down the corridor. Tap. 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 The flashlight lit up my cell. The beam moved slowly over the bed. It stopped. Too long. The guard shone the light on the pillow again. I froze in the tunnel. Then I heard the key turning in the lock. The guard walked in. His steps were slow, deliberate. He approached the bed. And then, nothing. A silence that lasted an eternity. Finally his steps turned back toward the door. The lock clicked. And he kept walking. It took me several minutes to breathe again. We had just fooled the most secure prison in the world. But barely. There was a problem no one wanted to mention. Getting out of the prison did not mean getting off Alcatraz. After the wall came the roof, the yard, the cliff. And finally, the ocean. More than 2 kilometers of freezing water. Currents strong enough to drag a boat away. Temperatures that could kill a man in under an hour. We needed a boat, but we were in a prison. There was no wood, no tools, no engines. Only raincoats. The same yellow raincoats the maintenance workers used. One disappeared. Then another. Hidden behind the walls, 3 prisoners were sewing an inflatable raft with thread stolen from the sewing shop. Miller, me, and a third man we called Beto. Few words, many scars, and the most skilled hands I had ever seen. When we finished the raft, I looked at it. It was ugly, crooked, covered in patches. It seemed impossible that it could float. But it was the only chance we had to decide our own lives again. For months I dreamed of that night. And when it finally came, I realized I was terrified. It was not the fear of dying. It was the fear of failing after coming so far. I took a deep breath. I looked at the fake head on my bed. Then I looked at the wall. It was now or never. I waited for the clock to strike 10. The main lights went out. The corridor fell silent. I heard the last guard's whistle announcing the shift change. That was the signal. I removed the grate and slipped into the tunnel one last time. But when I reached the meeting point, Miller was not there. I waited 3 minutes. 5. Nothing. Beto looked at me. I looked at him. We both knew what it meant. Something had gone wrong. Then I heard a noise behind me. Miller appeared through the shaft, his face drenched in sweat, his knuckles bleeding. The hole in my cell had sealed itself, he whispered. I had to open it again with my hands. His fingernails were torn off. He said nothing more. He just nodded. It was time to go. The three of us were together in the shaft. No one spoke. We could hear the wind slamming against the pipes. Every sound felt like an alarm. We climbed slowly up an old ventilation shaft. Our hands slipped. Our knees bled against the rusted metal. After several minutes we reached the roof. I pushed the hatch with all my strength. For an instant I thought it was stuck. Then it gave way. A rush of freezing air hit my face. It was the first time in years I saw the sky without bars. I do not remember crying, but I know my eyes were full of tears. We moved forward, crouched down. Every step seemed to shake the whole building. The wind blew so hard we could barely keep our balance. Below, the guards walked without imagining that 3 men were right above their heads. One of them lit a cigarette. The tiny flame lit up his face. He was less than 20 meters away. If he looked up, it would all be over. We waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. Until he kept walking. Then we ran. I will never forget that run. It was not fast. It was desperate. We jumped over a pipe. We crossed a ledge. And finally we reached the edge of the cliff. In front of us, there was only the ocean. We inflated the raft. It took much longer than expected. Every breath felt endless. Our hands were shaking. I did not know if it was from the cold or the fear. When the raft took shape, we looked at each other. Miller held out his hand. First to Beto. Then to me. No one said good luck. We all knew it might be goodbye. We jumped. The water hit me like a wall. I felt the air leave my lungs. It was even colder than I had imagined. The waves lifted the raft like a leaf. We began to paddle. Without looking back. I do not know how long we paddled. In the darkness, time stops existing. Then a huge wave struck the raft from the side. The water swallowed me. When I surfaced, the raft had vanished. I screamed their names. Once. Twice. 3 times. No one answered. Only the ocean. I kept swimming. Because to stop meant to die. When I woke up, I had sand between my fingers. I was coughing up water. Every muscle ached. But I was alive. I lifted my head. No towers. No bars. No guards. Only trees. And the dawn. I had made it. I got up with difficulty. Every step left blood on the sand. I wanted to laugh, I wanted to cry. But I could not. Because if anyone found out I was still alive, they would come back for me. I never knew what happened to Miller or Beto. That uncertainty would haunt me for years. But in that moment I could only do one thing. Disappear. Many years have passed. Alcatraz closed its doors. Thousands of tourists now walk the same corridors where I once believed I would die. They listen to the guides repeat the same line over and over. No one ever escaped alive. And every time I hear it, I smile. Because I am there. Among the visitors. With gray hair, a hunched back, a camera around my neck. No one imagines that I was once the prisoner everyone gave up for dead. I stop in front of my old cell. I run my hand along the wall. I can still feel the small crack where it all began. A child walks up and asks the guide, "Did no one really escape?" The guide answers with absolute certainty, "No. It is impossible." I lower my eyes. And I keep walking. Because some victories only exist as long as no one can prove them. The ferry pulls away from the island. I take one last look at the concrete walls. For years I believed Alcatraz had tried to take my freedom. Now I understand it also taught me how much it is worth. No one knows my name. No one will write my story. And maybe that is for the best. Because the man who escaped from Alcatraz died that night in the ocean. The man who survived chose never to exist again.